How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. Hopefully everyone's having a lovely day. So the Reds, I've been crunching the numbers, crunching them a lot. The Reds have themselves a really good problem. But it's a problem. It's a big problem. You got Christian Encarnacion-Strand tearing it up in AAA right now, batting .357 on the season. If you thought maybe it was a fluke of a hot start in spring training, okay, he said, all right, how about April? I'll go here and tear it up in AAA. If you thought, all right, maybe he's just hot, he's got to cool down. May comes around, June comes around. The guy's got 17 home runs on the season. Again, batting .357. He even has the Ks per game below a K per game, which is, again, you worry about the chase rate, the Ks, the weakness. I mean, he's been impressive. And at 23 years old, I don't think there's a point or there's a question at this point that he's deserving of a roster spot on this Reds team. And I truthfully think they would have called him up if they felt like they could. Here's the thing. It sounds crazy, but I mean, look at Ali De La Cruz. Would he be in the majors right now if Nick Senzel didn't go on the IL? He got injured. They said, all right, we have a spot for De La Cruz to play every day. Come on up. And I think that's the problem we're running in with Christian Encarnacion-Strand here. First base, Spencer Steer. Second base, India. Third base, Ali De La Cruz. Shortstop, McLean. You can't take any of those guys out of the lineup. We can see how Steer finishes out the season. He had a great month of May. We can see how he does the rest of the season. Was it a hot month? He's going to continue to play like that. I mean, that's the one guy you question, I guess. But right now, the way things now, you can't. He's playing well enough to be on this roster. He's playing well enough to be playing every single day. So he said, okay, where's he going to play? And this is, again, there's multiple things about this. Now, first of all, you look at it, say somebody's either going to have to be A traded or B moved to the outfield. And until that's proven, I can't see a spot for this guy on the roster. Now you can look and say, this is the dilemma. And this is why you say traded or something to prevent, because David Bell can't help himself. We're Reds at this point in time. We have what we have. You kind of have to love and accept him for who he is, and he's got a problem. he can't control it. He can't control himself in platooning guys and putting bench players in every 2 or 3 days. And the Kevin Newman's who's been doing great, but he can't. We've seen it in the past with other guys like Aquino. He can't help himself. He's gonna he's gonna try to get these bench players 2-3 games a week, and it's gonna be benching other guys. And for that reason, it's just you have Newman, you have Nick Senzel. TJ Frito's untouchable, I think, at center field. The way he's been batting over 300 this year, you can't touch him. So you have Newman, you have Nick Senzel, potentially Will Myers, guys coming back from injury, Jake Fraley. 4 guys to take up 2 spots. You bring up Encarnacion-Strand, 5 guys to take up 2 spots. Couple of those guys, you're gonna have to say who's moving. Are we moving on from the veterans? Are we trading them the way they're not gonna play? Because with 5 guys, you best believe Dave Bell's gonna be throwing those guys in every other game. And you cannot, I repeat, you cannot bring up a prospect of the caliber of Christian Encarnacion-Strand and platoon him. He needs to play every day. He needs to be on the field every day. He needs to be getting at bats. This is how he's going to grow. He's going to develop. He's still a growing and developing player. And that being said, can anybody honestly say they feel like David Bell would play him every day, given all those options that he's going to sit there and play with? I can't. So that brings us to a couple of different interesting dilemmas here. It's like, hey, again, somebody mentioned the Moneyball reference. I thought that was great. Now that I thought about it, that was a great reference. It's like, you know what? You don't want to start the guys I got you. I traded them away. But, it's a great problem because as much as it's like we want to play Encarnacion-Strand, and as much as it's like, David Bell wants to get all these guys at bats, you understand why. Because Nick Senzel, when you want to believe Nick Senzel bats well, he should be playing. Kevin Newman, bless Kevin Newman. You gotta. Good for this guy to ignore the noise because he's been really good. He's been solid for the Reds. He's batting .270 on the season, but unfortunately, he's kind of the odd man out on this team. You got all these young players, everybody wants to see him play, and then there's Newman kind of getting thrown into the lineup, and everybody's like, why? Honestly, we've said it before. He deserves to play the way he's been hitting lately. He deserves to play. It's tough because that's the situation he's in right now. And it's a good problem for the Reds that they have all these guys that are proven starters or capable starters, and they just can't get them all playing time. So you say, okay, you got to trade somebody. You have to find a way to, again, I think somebody's got to play in the outfield, obviously. One of these infielders, whether it be CES comes up or one of these other guys, India, whatever, somebody's got to jump to the outfield. The other thing is, I think that you almost have to see happen at this point in time. We didn't even talk about Joey Votto potentially coming back. I think almost has to happen is Tyler Stevenson. Again, love the guy. You want this to be a guy that you build on. You want this to be a guy that's a core of your team. But the Reds are learning real quickly. You can't afford, with the batting lineup that they currently have, you can't afford to have a young guy, specifically the catcher position, eating up half the games at DH. Because, again, what makes a guy like Tyler Stevenson so valuable is how difficult it is to find a really good hitting catcher. 250 at catcher, 260 at catcher, that's great. You can argue top 10 catcher, top 5, top 10 catcher in the league. 250, 260 DH, not so much. And more importantly, again, Tyler Stevenson at his best, you got to believe he can bat 280, 300 if he can start playing the way he used to. And we're starting to see him. He's starting to play really well. But again, as a young guy, as a catcher, there's so much more value in a player like Tyler Stevenson if he can play catcher because of how much more difficult it is to find that position. And I feel like you don't want to see him get hurt. You don't want to see a lot of guys get hurt. But if he's taking up the DH position half of the games, that puts the Reds in another predicament. Because none of these guys can play catcher. Sure, they can slide in the outfield. They can play first base. Votto's a great example. Maybe you want Votto to play DH half the games, first base the other. I don't think it happens. I don't know if Votto even starts for this team. It's crazy to think. But, if that was the case, you say, all right, that's fine because we got 4 guys that can play first base while Votto's on a DH. Stevenson goes on a DH, you got Maley or you got Casale playing in his role. That's the predicament the Reds are in, where you almost say he's kind of got to play his position so the Reds can get all these other guys in. It's a serious problem because then if you do that, though, you say, all right, now we have flexibility. Now these guys don't have to play the outfield. We can rotate them at DH, or we can still try to play them at the outfield, see how it goes. They can platoon the position role, if you will, or they'll have the guy play a little bit of outfield, a little bit of DH action, so on and so forth. Guys do still need their days off. That's the other problem, right? This is a young baseball team. I know times are different these days. Guys get depending on the sport, they get half the days off. These more basketball, they get like half the games off anymore. Not to name sports, but young guys can play 155, 160 games a season easily. They always have, and that's the other issue. It's like, well, you don't want to take these guys out of the lineup if you don't have to, so it makes it even more difficult where you can't rotate the infield in and give. You could, I guess, every 4 days everybody gets a day off, but you don't necessarily want to do that, especially if a guy's hitting hot and he's tearing a cover off the baseball. You want to get him out there, you want to get him ABs. So that's the other predicament they're in with the DH situation and the giving guys days off situation. Again, it's different. A guy, a veteran, maybe you got a couple veterans, a Votto and a Moustakas batting well, veterans on a team that, need the more days off, and it's like, all right, so great, we can platoon them. But a little bit more difficult with a young core. And I think that's where you got to go. I honestly, I don't even want Encarnacion-Strand brought up unless I'm getting myself a promise, and crazy, unless I'm getting myself a promise from David Bell. He's playing every day. He's playing every day. Ellie De La Cruz is playing every day. McLean's playing every day. India's playing every day. I want Friedel playing every day. As of right now, all those guys got to be playing every day. If you can't get that to happen by calling up Encarnacion-Strand, you got to start platooning guys. I think that causes issues and it causes havoc. We'll see, though. I want to see this guy play. I want to see him up here because, man, has he been electric. Love you guys' thoughts. Thank you guys for watching. We'll see you next time.